Hello and welcome back to the channel. Today I'll be featuring tips on how to remove and replace the variable phase control solenoid on this 2023 Chrysler Pacifica Hybrid. If you find my tips to be helpful, please like, subscribe, and comment. Now let's get started. There are 4 phase control solenoids on this engine, and I'll point them out. So there's one intake solenoid right here. There's one exhaust solenoid right there. Intake solenoid right there. And exhaust solenoid back there. Okay? Symptoms associated with faulty solenoids include poor fuel economy, low power output, stalling, hard starts, and the series of trouble codes, and I'll just cover 2 or 3, but you'll have a P0010, P0013, and a P0011. So you might ask, what does this part do? It adjusts the camshaft position and improves engine performance. So let's move on to our supply list. Our supply list includes a T25 Torx bit, a small Rachet flat tip screwdriver, and phase control solenoids as needed. Please see other items in the description below. Before we remove the solenoid, I just want to share a couple tips with you. So when you're trying to access this location right here, you might say to yourself, it's pretty tight in here, and I'm just going to go ahead and remove or disconnect some of these clamps. Initially, I started to do that, and what I found is that there's fluid in here that will siphon out. And so I don't advise that you disconnect any of these connections, because if you do, then you're going to have to replace the fluid that's in there. You could take that route, but just be aware that fluid will come out. I would just kind of work around the connections rather than removing them. That's my tip, okay? If you look, there are 3 mounting screws. One here, one there, and then one at the bottom, okay? So this is where you're gonna come in. And what I recommend is you take your Torx bit in your left hand, and you just kind of feel where the tip of the screw is, okay? So get an understanding of what that feels like. Then you come back in with your ratchet, loosen up that screw. It will only take 1 or 2 turns, and then the ratchet won't work anymore, okay? And that's when you can just come in with your hand and very carefully, just 1 turn at a time, unscrew the screw. And I'm being extremely slow and careful here. And there you go, I just tugged on it and I'm pulling it out. I'm being extra careful because if you drop this screw in here, this is going to triple the time for the job. And you might have to remove the lower engine cover. So that's another pro tip, okay? The reason for this towel being here is so that if I drop anything, it will not go down into the engine compartment. It'll just stop right here, okay? So that's another tip for you. So as you can see, the solenoid just comes off. There's no pressure. They don't even have an O-ring right here, surprisingly. And so here's the clamp. It's a locking clamp. So you can take a flat tip screwdriver, put it in the out position, and then you're going to press down on that white clip, and it just pulls out. And there you have it. I'm just going to go over a few items here. So how do you know this is working? Well, really, if it's throwing a code, it's not working, but it could be that it's just dirty. And one of the things you have to watch out for is making sure that your engine oil has been changed and that you've cleared the check engine code prior to changing these phase solenoids, because dirty engine oil will make these throw a code, okay? So please keep your engine oil very clean and always double check that your engine oil has been cleaned. You got a new filter prior to changing the solenoids. So another thing you can check for is whether or not see, I'm pushing it in and you see that little pin just comes right out. See how that works? And if you notice, it's not really a clicking sound, it's more of a dull thud. Right? This is a solenoid in good working condition. That's all there is to it, really. The hard part for this job is carefully removing the screws. And of course, I have to admit, I removed the easiest solenoid to get to. But I just want to tell you, if you take your time, this job is very doable. Just plan for twice as much time as you expect to do it. Please do not try to rush it. I would give yourself a minimum of 4 hours. Make sure you have a towel down in these areas to help catch the screws if the screws were to fall. And there's plenty of space back there. It's not too tight at all. This job is very doable. The part number is screaming out here, so let me go ahead and read that off for you guys. 050-477-88 Alpha Delta. All right, now let's go ahead and get this part installed. And so just so I don't drop it, right, I'm going to go ahead and connect it to the electrical connector right now. All right, I'm going to go ahead and lock it. So now, even if I drop this, it's only going to go so far. Okay, line up the holes. Once again, there's no gasket, and it only fits one way. So we'll go ahead and grab a screw, get that screw started. Once I have the screw started, and I'm going to come in there with my bit and tighten it up about 90%. The solenoid itself does have a metal sleeve where the screw attaches, but this housing here is plastic, so it only has to be snug. Remember, there isn't even an O-ring here. So that's screw number 1. In order to get that screw on that side, I'm going to push this hose back like that, and that's going to give me the access I need. I'm going to feel it out very carefully, get that screw started. Okay, that's that screw. Now there's one right about the 530 position. And that one, you're really in the blind here. So take a deep breath. You might have to push back on these hoses right here. And if you notice, this hose right here, sitting here, I moved it back and off out of this clip. That gave me a couple more inches, right? Okay, here I go. Right at the 530. Yep, it's about the 530 position. I can feel the hole. All right. Now, you might have to shake it a little bit at this point. There you go. I've got 1 or 2 threads threaded, and it's really hard because it's got some oil in it. So now I'm going to go in with the torx bit, and I could apply a little more pressure and get it moving. Okay, that's working. I'm looking straight down on the bit, and I can see that the bit is sinking. Okay, so I've got that bottom screw pretty snug, so I'm going to tighten up these other 2 screws before I put the ratchet on there. This drill bit wants to slip out of my hand. Take your time. Do not drop the screw. I'm going to go back in. See, I'm pressing that hose out of the way. It might just be better to attach the bit to the ratchet and try to tighten it up. Just using a little pressure on the ratchet. And there you go. Okay. Well, so now the solenoid has been replaced. And so there's just a couple of connections that I need to reconnect. So there's a wire connection right here on top. I'm going to push that back into place. You see how it sits out like that? You just push it in. So that actually hangs on the solenoid itself. There's a hose right here that I lifted up, so that's gonna move down and into this clip right here. Okay, There you go. And I didn't disconnect any of these other hoses, so I'm okay. I save myself a lot of time. I guess one could make the argument that you could save more time if you move these hoses out the way. And it's likely that if you want to replace this exhaust solenoid, you will have to remove these hoses. So it's up to you. It's all very doable. But at this time, I'm just going to go ahead and wrap this video up. This finishes up the removal and replacement of the variable phase control solenoid on this 2023 Chrysler Pacifica Hybrid. I hope you found my tips to be helpful. Please like and subscribe. And until next time, drive defensively.